And this executive order rescinds executive order number 47. State and local law enforcement should not be required to divert their limited resources to enforce federal civil immigration laws. It is a responsibility of federal law enforcement. Virginia state and local law enforcement officers must be able to focus on their core responsibilities, investigating crime and community policing.
Our president has sent poorly trained federal agents into our cities, where they have arrested and detained American citizens and people who aspire to be Americans. And they have done it without a warrant. They have ripped nursing mothers away from their babies. They have sent children, a little boy in a blue bunny hat, children to far-off detention centers. And they have killed American citizens in our streets. And they have done it all with their faces masked from accountability. Every minute spent sowing fear is a minute not spent investigating murders, crimes against children, or the criminals defrauding seniors of their life savings. Our president told us tonight that we are safer because these agents arrest mothers and detain children. Think about that. Our broken immigration system is something to be fixed, not an excuse for unaccountable agents to terrorize our communities.
An illegal alien in the state of Virginia murdered an American citizen, Stephanie Minter, stabbed her. And this illegal alien had 30 prior arrests. One of the arrests included him stabbing an elderly man, but was back on the streets. The murder that this illegal alien, Abdul Jalas, committed is definitely upsetting because throughout this video, you'll notice a pattern of soft on crime policies from these Democratic elected officials. Like Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, you'll notice the same ideology on crime within Fairfax County with the prosecutor Steve Descano. And I'll read a few of his notable cases here. Descano's practice of reducing charges has drawn intense scrutiny, particularly regarding violent offenses and non-citizen defendants. 2026 U.S. House Inquiry. A January 2026 letter from the House Judiciary Committee criticized Descano's office for dropping a felony strangulation charge for a misdemeanor plea in a case involving an individual with multiple prior deportations. 2022 bar shooting. Prosecutors struck a deal with a defendant facing 6 felonies for firing into a crowded bar that allowed the record to be cleared if he remained offense-free for 3 years. 2021 attempted rape case. A defendant was allowed to walk with 5 months in jail after an attempted rape. The individual later committed a multi-city shooting. I'll read where this particular policy that this prosecutor is practicing originated from in Virginia. Now, the 2020 bail reform law, often labeled as catch and release by critics, was sponsored by the Democratic Party. It did not receive overwhelming or bipartisan support. Instead, it passed on strictly partisan basis. To let you know, solely the Democrats. The Senate vote passed 21-18 on February 2nd, 2021. Every yes vote came from a Democrat and every no vote came from a Republican. House vote passed 53-44 on February 24th, 2021. The vote followed a similar partisan split. Now, the statistics of this policy is definitely eye-opening and sickening. And most of the time, these elected officials do not reside in the areas to where these criminals are released in. Like you look at the statistic here, the increased release rate, the elimination of presumptive denial increased the pretrial release rate of those previously subject to law by an average of 3.8%. Total releases in a typical recent year in 2022, approximately 89.5% of all defendants in Virginia were released from custody during the pretrial period. Released by offense type. Data from the commission shows that 83% of all defendants charged with offenses punishable by incarceration were released pre-trial. This includes 74% of felony defendants and 92% of misdemeanor defendants. Here's another case. Critics of the 2021 bail reform frequently point to a high-profile violent crime as evidence of catch and release failures. For example, a white paper from Fairfax County highlighted a case where an individual committed murder while out on unsecured bail after a previous history of 23 arrests between 2022 and 2024. Proponents of the law, however, argue that these cases are statistically rare and that pretrial detention should be based on individual arrest rather than a person's ability to pay cash bail. Wow. All right. Well, we're going to dive into this first clip and learn more about this case.
Man accused of stabbing a woman to death along Richmond Highway in Fairfax County.
Court documents show that Abdul Jallah has been charged with multiple stabbings, assaults, and a rape, but he served very little time behind bars. Now he's charged with murder.
Northern Virginia Bureau Chief Julie Carey has a closer look at the challenge in taking his previous cases to trial.
First responders arriving at a Richmond Highway bus stop finding the victim of a stabbing.
A female unresponsive. There seems to be a cut. She's not breathing. Unresponsive. There's blood all over her.
41-year-old Stephanie Minter died from her injuries. Her family just posting this obituary describing her as, quote, a beam of light in dark places. Charged in her killing, 32-year-old Abdul Jallah, already well known to police and prosecutors. Court records show the unhoused man had a reputation for violence, an alleged rape in 2018, then a series of 4 alleged stabbings, and more recently, before the alleged murder, 2 alleged assaults. But only once was Jallah convicted and sent to prison. In February of 2023, he stabbed a 73-year-old man so forcefully the blade broke off the knife. He pleaded guilty to malicious wounding and was sentenced to serve 2 years with 5 years of time suspended. Then Monday night, another stabbing. Police say it's at least the 5th tied to Jallah, and this time a woman was dead. Virginia's former attorney general on social media blasting what he called catch and release policies. But a spokeswoman for the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office says many of the cases were difficult to prosecute, writing, unfortunately, the defendant in this case also had a history of selecting victims with no fixed address. In multiple cases, we were unable to move forward with prosecution because victims could not be located or contacted despite considerable effort from our police department to bring them to court. But records show police had identified locations or contact information for some victims. Chief Kevin Davis writing in a statement, "We respect the criminal justice system and the distinct roles and responsibilities of each entity within it. In previous cases involving this defendant, our officers and detectives conducted thorough investigations, made lawful arrests, and presented evidence for prosecution. The court outcomes are in no way related to any shortcomings associated with the FCPD."
Interpretation, that's y'all fault. Y'all dropped the ball. This is on your hands.
But a spokeswoman for the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office putting a finer point on their position, saying aside from issuing subpoenas to victims and witnesses, they don't have any ability or authority to physically bring people to court. In Fairfax County, I'm Julie Carey, News 4.
In this next clip, this investigative journalist retrieves the documents that law enforcement and the prosecutor had between each other over Abdul Jallah's release and how law enforcement, expressed concerns, but nothing happened. Let's go ahead and dive into it.
And with a breaking news alert.
Breaking now at 4 o'clock, 7 News was the first to report emails from Fairfax County Police warning the county's top prosecutor about an alleged repeat offender.
Yeah, this man, Abdul Jallah, is accused of murdering a mother at a bus stop last week. And today in Richmond, Republican senators blasted Governor Abigail Spanberger for not committing to notifying ICE about his release date.
We're asking Governor Spanberger to stop creating barriers to deportation, stop dismantling federal law enforcement partnerships, start cooperating fully with federal authorities to deport criminal illegal aliens from Virginia, especially repeat violent offenders like this person who was arrested for the death of Stephanie Minter.
And senators also called out Fairfax County's prosecutor for dropping charge after charge on this violent repeat offender over the years, returning him to the community where he then committed more crimes.
And that is the focus of our top story tonight. 7 News' Nick Minock just received documents showing police warned the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office repeatedly that this man was a deadly danger. So, Nick, were these warnings just ignored?
That's right, Michelle and Megan. Tonight we have proof that Fairfax County Police warned Fairfax County Commonwealth's Attorney Steve Toscano's office over and over again about this illegal immigrant, Abdul Jallo, who has a lengthy criminal history in Fairfax County. Police told Toscano's office that if he was released back into the community, he could harm someone again or even kill someone. So these emails lay out police concerns about this. And despite those warnings from police, Toscano's office dropped charge after charge, allowing this man to walk free back into the community. Now, the first email was sent in May, then another in August, and finally in November, just 3 months before the murder of Stephanie Minter last week. In that last email, a Fairfax County police major wrote to Toscano's office, quote, "I wanted to bring Mr. Jallo's release to your attention because Mr. Jallo is one of the repeat and violent offenders we discussed when we met. I wanted to get your background on why he is out so soon and ask if his prior suspended sentence of, I believe, 5 years was pursued by your office. Unfortunately, based on the station's numerous dealings with him, it is not a question of if, but rather when he will maliciously wound or worse again." The first email from last May said much of the same thing. Fairfax County Police emailed top prosecutors in Toscano's office saying Jallo has a long history of stabbing community members, has shown a blatant disregard for human life, and is a danger to the community. Now, Jallo has more than 40 past charges in Fairfax County, and Toscano's office has dropped almost every single one. Police say that they have had more than 100 encounters with this man, who DHS says is in the country illegally, and he's been in Fairfax County since he was 9 years old, an illegal immigrant from Sierra Leone. Now, if you want to read all the emails we obtained in this Freedom of Information Act request from the police department between the police and Toscano's office, you can go to our homepage, WJLA.com. Reporting live in Richmond, Nick Minock, 7 News.
All right, Nick, thank you. And we will be checking back in with you at 5 o'clock. Now, in light of these developments.
Now, hearing this next clip is from a year ago. And, I guess for me, after, reviewing this case more, I wanted to go and see as far as like if there's been a past pattern with this particular Democrat prosecutor and how he approaches things. And obviously there is, based upon some of the footage we've already watched here. But this right here is from, like I said, a year ago, this clip. And even then, the supervisor or law enforcement, they had questions about this prosecutor, and they wanted to see specific statistics that discussed how he's managing these cases that the law enforcement's involved in, capturing those individuals, but for whatever reason, they're seeing them back on the streets again. So let's go ahead and dive into this clip.
Scott Thuman, and first tonight at 6 o'clock, rising crime in Fairfax County. It remains a concern for many residents. And now a county supervisor is calling on the county's top prosecutor to provide more information to the public on the outcome of all cases. 7 News' Nick Minock joining us now live in Fairfax with the story that you'll see only on 7 News. Nick?
Hey, Scott, some people have criticized Fairfax County Commonwealth's Attorney Steve Toscano for being soft on crime. Toscano has described himself as a progressive prosecutor. Tonight, Fairfax County Supervisor Pat Harity wants Toscano to be more transparent about all the cases his office handles.
The Fairfax County Police Department has been posting videos like this one on social media showing their officers arresting suspected criminals. In this instance, officers arrested a man this month for stealing merchandise and displaying a knife. But after officers make arrests like this, what happens next? Fairfax County Commonwealth's Attorney Steve Toscano's office handles the prosecution. Last week, Toscano announced a new data dashboard on the Fairfax County website that shows arrest demographic information, case categories, and case types.
I think it's excellent. One of our national strategies has been to get prosecutors to move away from being the black box in the criminal justice system to being able to show to their communities and others that are interested, what does that office do?
Descano says he's providing unprecedented transparency, but County Supervisor Pat Harity points out the data Descano is providing is nothing new, and the Fairfax County Police Department has been providing this information for years on the FCPD website.
Police have been doing this for a long time. What I'd like to see is what Commonwealth Attorney Descano has done with the cases he's provided by the police.
7 News asked Descano if he will publish data online that shows how many cases he's won and lost in court, how many misdemeanors and felonies has his office dropped, how many convictions has he secured, and more. It's been almost a week and Descano has not answered these questions. But we do have some insight on case trends in Descano's office. 7 News received information in a FOIA request that shows under Descano, fewer felony cases were sent to trial. More felony charges have been dismissed and dropped. And there have been fewer guilty verdicts on felony charges compared to his predecessor's final 3 years in office, even though several categories of major crimes are up in Fairfax County. Supervisor Harity had this blunt assessment.
To prosecute fewer cases and to lose more cases, I mean, that tells you just how bad a job the Commonwealth Attorney of today is doing.
Last Tuesday and again today, 7 News asked Fairfax County Commonwealth Attorney Steve Descano for an interview on this topic, but his office ignored our request. But this isn't the first time Descano has ignored our interview requests with 7 News. Reporting live in Fairfax, Nick Minock, 7 News.
Insane. That's crazy. I don't even know what to say in that instance. There's nothing really too much you can say, but how could someone continue to practice law and do this? Like, it seems like they just went to the extreme with just being soft on crime and just let anybody out. Like, you should people out here stabbing people, doing all types of stuff, and they're able just to get out. And I spoke about this before in my prior videos, how judicial warrants are not applicable with ICE. Like, there are certain instances where I've seen to where they can be utilized, but that is very rare in those particular cases, because when you look at how ICE is set up, ICE, they already have their immigration judges on their side to where they are able to give that final order of removal. And ICE is informed of this. Then at that point in time, ICE has the administrative warrants to be able to carry out those orders from the immigration judge. I don't see how that's so difficult to understand in this particular situation. Now, if you have a one-off instance to where things are happening, all right, cool, let's talk about it. But we're rarely even coming across one-off situations. Now, one could argue if this was Obama or Biden, would she be acting like this? Probably not. She'll be giving that illegal alien over without any doubt. Anyways, though, get at me in the comments. Please be safe. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to An Unaffiliated Mind. Until next time, deuces. Yes, sir.